like and subscribe. Now, which video game franchise should be revived? Elena, I was gonna get a sequel, yeah. Mercenaries, loved the mechanics of those games. That game was way ahead of its time. 2 big open world maps with destructible environments and tons of things to do. I don't know how that thing was able to run on a PS2. Being able to airdrop in any weapons/vehicles you like was so much fun as a kid. I don't know how that thing was able to run on a PS2. It barely did. I love that game. Still got it, but it has a hard time running. I loved the first game it did. Languages better than any game I've played since. You could pick one of 3 starting characters, each of whom spoke English and one other language, Korean, Mandarin, and Vietnamese. If I remember correctly, lots of NPCs actually spoke their appropriate languages and you'd only get subtitles if you'd pick the character who spoke their language. Really cool and immersive. LMAO. I remember a mission where you had to escort/protect a journalist as he reported on the fighting. As the mission came to the final objective, to escort him out of the area, the NPC and we're running back to the vehicle when a helicopter got destroyed and its burning wreckage landed directly on the NPC's head. Years after playing that game, I still remember the WTF that went through my head and then the laughter that followed. So much fun was had in that open world. The bunker buster from the first Merc title was so satisfying to use. Black and White. Imagine that game with updated AI for the creature. The guy who created that AI is one of the researchers behind DeepMind. There's a reason the AI was so damned good. Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve. Dino Crisis. Eternal Darkness. Conker's Bad Fur Day. F-Zero. Please. F-Zero on modern hardware would be eye melting. I remember playing Whippet on PSX and feeling that way. Somehow it ran at 60 frames per second on the Nintendo 64. Legend of Dragoon and the Chrono Trigger series. If we got a Chrono Trigger Chrono Cross remake or sequel, I would legit flip my sh. Dragoon got me into RPG games when I was a kid. Yes, Legend of Dragoon was amazing. RollerCoaster Tycoon. Other comments have touched on these, but I'll add a little. RCT2 with OpenRCT2. Best PC option for original RCT. GOG sells the first 2 OG RollerCoaster Tycoons. They can be had for quite cheap when on sale. RCT on GOG. RCT2 on GOG. If you just want to play RCT, buy one or both, and then go get OpenRCT2, which is an open source implementation of RCT2 with new features, bug fixes, etc. OpenRCT2, RCT Classic, best mobile option. If you want to play on mobile, RollerCoaster Tycoon Classic is a very good mobile port of RCT and RCT2. Touch controls work well, all scenarios are included, and it's great to play on a tablet while traveling. Apple App Store, Google App Store, Amazon App Store, PC version on Steam. The Steam version on PC works quite well, too. I'd recommend OpenRCT2 over the Steam version, but the Steam version still has a lot of COL fixes and is a very credible implementation. My only complaint is that properly placing things where you want can be a bit of a pain. It's a minor quibble, but it's one of the reasons I recommend OpenRCT2 if you're playing on PC. Parkitect and Planet Coaster. Now on to the successors. There are 2 main, for instance, actually good. Stay away from RCT World. Spiritual successors to classic RCT. Both are good in their own right, and they fill different, complementary itches. Parkitect, Planet Coaster. Parkitect. Parkitect is probably closer and truer to RCT, in that it's top down, and is more focused as a management sim. You can still make gorgeous rides and parks, but you'll also need to consider things like how to efficiently remove trash while hiding the more utilitarian element of your park. Planet Coaster. Planet Coaster is much more for those of you who want a coaster or park making sandbox. Management sim aspects are there, but there isn't much depth, and you'll be disappointed if you expect too much. On the other hand, those of you who are creative savants can build some insane rides and parks that are beyond gorgeous. Even if you're not a creative genius yourself, the Steam Workshop integration makes it very easy to bring in other people's creations into your own parks. Parkitect is pretty good. Parkitect feels like the Chris Sawyer developed RollerCoaster Tycoon 3 we never got. I do still like the actual RCT3 though. The Mario inspired level menu is kind of hilariously out of place too. Legacy of Kain / Soul Reaver. The storytelling was on another level. It's time to see those pillars and the vampires restored, and something done about the Hilden and Elder God. This is my answer too, but only if they can get Amy Hennig back to write it, and cement Templeman to voice Kain. Raziel, you said it yourself Kain. Your coin has only two sides. Kain, apparently so. Throw a coin enough times. Suppose eventually it lands on its edge. Time Splitters. Splinter Cell. Well, you'll be glad to know that Time Splitters is returning until there is an actual trailer, or more importantly, a release date. I refuse to get my hopes up. I have been waiting too long to be excited for a project that could get cancelled suddenly. Splinter Cell. The monkey's paw sits ready on that one. Any new Splinter Cell game is going to be a modern Ubisoft game, which means an open world game designed to extract maximum profit from the player by forcing them to choose between an extended grind and microtransactions. I would love for another Chaos Theory, but I feel like it can never happen again. Pandora Tomorrow was peak PlayStation 2 and Mercs vs Spies was way too good. I still have fond memories of Jet Set Radio Future. I'd love to see a revival. Pretty sure that's getting a spiritual successor. Fun fact, they got Hideki Naganuma on that project. He composed the music for both Jet Set Radio games, so it's in very good hands. Command & Conquer, but not with a mobile game. Generals 2 please. Didn't need to be sent to the grave. China will grow larger. Oh god, the moment I saw this thread I thought of CNC. If it's any consolation, there's official mod support coming for Open RAD on CNC Remastered. It's currently in Alpha 40 Dawn and I cannot wait. Every single CNC up to Kane's Wrath has just been wonderful in my eyes. Truly amazing games. RIP Westwood Studios. One of the earliest studio deaths at the hands of EA. Dark Cloud. Way ahead of its time. Discovering Dark Cloud 2 completely blew my mind with how much content it had. It's insane that nobody has tried to copy the formula with modern technology. Lots of modern crafting / dungeon diving games are similar, but it's like Point EC2 is still the better game even after all these years. Challenging dungeons, crafting, photography, fishing, golf, a full-fledged city builder with customization, fun storyline and cutscenes, time travel, good graphics for the time, plus other things that I'm sure I forgot. Just listing them out loud I'm like holy crap, that game was amazing. Sly Cooper. Thought of this immediately and had to find it here. Sly 123 was amazing. Yes PLS. The GD Knight series I feel like doesn't get enough credit for the platform gameplay, especially Academy. I would love to see more. The mission you have to pass the force tests to get the lightsaber is very memorable. Republic Commando needs a sequel too. The lightsaber fighting from GD Knight 2 is still the best implementation of lightsaber duels I've seen in any video game. Academy had the most options for lightsabers, guns, and force powers. Also had a huge variety of moves, total freedom of motion, and a pretty damn good story too. It even had an amazing vehicle level. It's very sad to see that in the past decade very few games have attempted that level of variety. SSX, so many hours lost on SSX3. SSX Tricky was my favorite. It's tricky to rock a rhyme, that's right on time. It's tricky. SSX Tricky was 10/10ths a perfect game to me. Loved that series so much. What I loved about SSX3 was the sheer absurd arcade Uber system and points that you would accumulate. It was addicting trying to fit in the most spins, rotations or tricks to get super Uber. Like that feeling of just pure momentum and power from getting all your tricks lined up one after the other was chef's kiss. Aside from that, it had a super deep customization system for a game like this with stats and cosmetics and various playable characters. Really great to be able to unlock mountains, but then upgrade your character to take it on, whether you spin fast or handle better. My only fear is that, being an EA title, there is no doubt in my mind it would never come back the way we'd imagine. You're going to get microtransactions out the A for things like cosmetics or even stats. God forbid you introduce loot boxes into the franchise. That soundtrack still shapes my musical tastes. Play it loud. Kotter, although I believe there is a remake coming soon. Came to say the JK series, but I would take Kotter. So glad Metroid is coming back. A few months ago, that would have been my answer. No one lives forever, it's been ages, and I'm much older, so my tastes may have changed, but I recall it being funny and actually fun. With enjoyable stealth mechanics and decent shooting. You look like you need a monkey is burned into my brain. Army of Two. We need more couch co-op games. The weapon customization in that game was so sick. That was what kept me playing. Having a gold AK-47 with a drum mag, a shield on the front and an underbarrel shotgun made me feel like the ultimate badass Mayo. Battle for Middle-earth. I would give so much. I'd even be down for it to just be re-released as is. I keep my Xbox 360 solely for that game. Because I can't play it on my computer anymore. I've been dying to play the expansion, but don't know how to get it. Look up Battle for Middle-earth. Reforged. It's a fan project that has been in the works for a couple of years now with a whole new engine. I think they are planning to release a beta sometime soonish. As far as soon can be soon with a project that takes multiple years. Star Fox. Star Fox on the Nintendo 64 is still one of my favorite games of all time. I guess arcade style games went out of fashion shortly after that, but it really is an amazing game. When the wings are just on that first boss and you go into free fly mode, it just completely blew my mind. I feel like this is seriously missing from Nintendo's lineup right now. He has more character development and usage in Smash Bros than in his own games. The new Yoshi game is good. Kirby game is good. Mario games are good. Zelda games are good. Where are the Star Fox games? Midnight Club. I've been dying for a Midnight Club game recently. Same. ** even know how popular it would be. Look how successful the recent Tunas DLC was. Dungeon Keeper. Prince of Persia. I scrolled a lot looking for this. I'm playing the 2010 Forgotten Sands currently, and it brought back the times when I used to play Two Thrones and Warrior Within about 7 years ago. It's such a fun game with a decent story, combat and graphics, but the best part for me is the Parker. I'd love a remake with a different storyline. Golden Sun. Seriously, just give us GS4, so we can finally beat the crap out of Alex, and bring peace to Wii Yard. Do 6. Road Rash. Spore. The tribal and civilization stages should be expanded. Honestly, the creature stage was my favorite. Hands down. I like the cell stage, because part placement mattered. At one point I thought it was supposed to matter for creatures too instead of just being stats. Imagine a full top to bottom remake where creature and ships etc. design mattered. Tenchu. Simpsons Hit and Run. Like GTA 4 Kids, the storytelling and satire was pretty good in that game. Jak and Daxter. This year is the 20th anniversary, so this game was the felt so smooth for its time. So easy to take for granted how ahead of its time those games were technologically. The controls and animations were buttery smooth. Plus, no loading screens and they ran at 60 FPS. Man, I grew up obsessed with the Jak and Daxter series. Hands down some of my favorite games of all time. Top 5 easily. Practically all I used to play Mayo. I especially love Jak 2nd. Such a fun game. I remember having a blast on the jetboard as a kid. Jak 2nd's gamma play was amazing. Jak 3rd's story was incredible. Came here to say that. Give it the same treatment Ratchet Crash and Spyro got. Hell, while we're at it, throw Sly Cooper some love to Dino Crisis Legacy of Kain. Damn. Dino Crisis was scary as when I was a kid. Splinter Cell. With improvements in ray tracing tech, this should be a no-brainer. The first one had amazing shadows and lighting for the time. Chaos Theory's graphics hold up, way ahead of its time. I'm surprised this one has been on the shelf for so long. With modern tech and a really dedicated and focused campaign, it could be phenomenal. Maximum Pain. Maximum Pain 3 still has the greatest third-person shooting and ragdoll physics in gaming, and that game came out almost 10 years ago. Wii Sports. I played the boxing game so long one night that the next morning I had to have my now wife help me put my shirt on for work. Couldn't bring my arms back without killing my shoulders. ADD Wii Party and Wii Play and Wii Sports Resort. Infamous. Infamous is such a console seller for me. I'd like to have a PS5. but I haven't been too broken up about it yet because there aren't many PS5 exclusives that I feel like I'm missing out on. But if a new Infamous game comes, I'll be watching those PS5 drops like a hawk. But also, I really just want an Infamous collection release on Steam. Would love to play through 1 and 2 again. But I sold my PS3 years ago assuming they would eventually be ported over, and then it never happened. Silent Hill, you promised you'd take me there again someday. If this doesn't happen in the next few years, then Konami is just leaving money on the table. The last few Resident Evil games, of which 7 and 8 bear some definite PT inspiration, prove that AAA horror games can be successful and massively lauded. And considering the fact that Sh and Re are basically the 2 Titan horror franchises, I'd think developers would want to pick up the gauntlet that Capcom has essentially thrown down. Technically Konami did make a Silent Hill recently that was a canon story, but it's a refined pachinko machine. I think more than PT, the Silent Hills concept trailer that's still on YouTube is almost a better demonstration of what could have been. Breaks my heart. These 2 immediately come to mind: Chrono Trigger / Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy Tactics. Bully, please. Whatever Rockstar can make which isn't milking GTA V. I've been saying this for years. Change the setting from a small private school to a big public school in the suburbs. Expand the social cliques feature beyond just preps, nerds, and jocks. Bring in the punks, goths, rednecks, skaters, stoners, rich kids, etc. One of the coolest features of the original game was how literally every student had a personality and unique features and an in-game opinion on you which you could influence. Keep that. Multiplied by 100. Your player character is a new kid, a troubled orphan living in a group home. You get to keep the strict curfew game mechanic and the walled garden safe house structure. The map is a busy suburban corridor surrounded by seemingly endless cul-de-sac neighborhoods in various states of decay. There's weird Easter eggs in the surrounding woods. The player tries to get through their classes and navigate the complicated social strata, ultimately falling in with the wrong crowd. Skate. Well, good news. Skate 4 was confirmed to be in the works. Skies of Arcadia. Its one time at bat was perfect, so we need more perfection. Tribes. Sleeping Dogs. Not really a franchise, but I'm continually thoroughly bummed we never got a sequel. Every time I replay it, I'm always amazed by how great that game is. SimCity. I loved SimCity 4, and it's a shame that the later SC games couldn't keep up. The most recent SimCity from 2013 had a few nice aspects, and I really enjoyed the first few hours of planning a city, but the limitations made me hate the game. Jade Empire. Also, a remake of Fairy Tail from 1986. 1987 would have been swell. Portal. Have you seen Portal Reloaded? My 12-year-old son loves Portal. The game definitely still has appeal. Portal Reloaded was great. You get some real brain-hurty puzzles when you start to mess with time. Yes, I recently replayed both games. All Valve titles. Heh, I'm sure I'm not the only one. Prototype, lol. I worked on both P1 and P2. Cassenia, lead for the Microsoft TRG team. I might have been senior online lead at that time. You should have heard all the dialogue and that was cut from P2 and some story as well. I hated that game at the end of test. Thank you for the hard work and a great game. Banjo-Kazooie and Legend of Mana. Missed only having one controller growing up. This felt like a video game that the whole family was really playing. Whoever was at the keyboard was just controlling, but I felt just as involved in the game when I wasn't the person at the keyboard. I should break out Riven again. Never was able to figure out that whole game. In case you don't know, there is a bunch of great spiritual successors to the Myst series, such as basically every Myst sequel, and the Uru spin-off, Abduction, by the same creators, and the upcoming Firmament, Undying Thoughts, probably the most Myst-like game not made by Cyan Worlds, The Witness, Outer Wilds, The Talos Principle. Twisted Metal, literally my first thought when I read the question. I still have the first 3 games, but Twisted Metal 2 will always be my favorite. It was the first game where the story actually got to me, namely with Grasshopper's victory ending. It still depresses me. Burnout. was a racing series, but a significant part of gameplay was causing other racers to crash. Fully destructible cars and environments. There was even a play mode where you got to launch your car down some sort of ramp. There is a bit by map and into traffic, and you get points by causing the greatest amount of damage. Very fun. Burnout 3. Takedown was so effing good. The soundtrack on that game was incredible too. So good for releasing after school tension. The best of the best to be sure. Party Crash Man. I remember playing with my friends over and over with the fire truck and causing carnage. The gameplay was amazing and the graphics were stellar for the time. I would love another proper Burnout. Burnout 3 was, without question, the best racing game on the PS2 and 4. Dominator Paradise were also all very solid titles, but EA just decided to move the Burnout developers onto the Need for Speed series. After all, why have two different arcade street races, right? And sure, some of the titles Criterion made for the series, such as Hot Pursuit, were well received. It's just not the same. Need for Speed is what happens when a game publisher watches a bunch of car modders doing donuts in a Tesco car park after watching a Fast Furious movie and tries to replicate it in video game form. Yes, mechanically it's similar to Burnout, but all of the aesthetics are different. Need for Speed was baked into real world cars and modding, along with some R&B/hip-hop/grime/dubstep, and a bunch of dodgy 20-somethings evading the cops because family or whatever. Burnout was not that. Burnout was pure arcade fun. There was no story. There was no effort to capture an aesthetic or pander to a subculture like Need for Speed. Burnout just had a rock soundtrack and wanted you to have fun. There were no characters, no story, no real world cars, or worrying about car specs or customization. It was just purely here's a car, head for the road, here's your opponents, turn the radio up and enjoy. It's that aesthetic difference that matters. I never cared for Need for Speed because I was never into the whole car modding/illegal street racing scene. But Burnout was just arcade fun with a soundtrack I could rock out to, and I wish it had got a true sequel after Paradise. Burnout Revenge was the best. Commander Keen. The Cayman Stadium. Love this idea in the Pokemon Coliseum/XD games. They would work amazingly for the Switch. Honestly, Age of Mythology. True, the OG is still flawless, but I would lose my SH*T for the same game in today's graphics.